Now leading the way in MotoGP, just 1 point clear of older brother Marc Marquez after Marc crashed out for the second time in 3 races at the Spanish Grand Prix just 2 weeks ago. Alex cashing in supreme style for a debut MotoGP win. The emotion still reverberating around the paddock 2 weeks on as we come here to France. Jack Appleyard and Lewis Suddaby here for the next half an hour to preview what's to come this weekend. It was an emotional one, and I'm sure there's plenty in the Gresini garage are still drying those eyes after Jerez just 2 weeks ago. It was a special Sunday afternoon.
It'd been quite a wait for Alex Marquez for that first MotoGP win. A lot of second places already this season, but if there was one place, one day in history that Alex Marquez would have chosen to take that first MotoGP victory, it would have been the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez. And you have to say, whatever happened to Marc Marquez, from the moment Alex Marquez hit the front in Jerez, he looked a nailed-on race winner. He was superb throughout the weekend. You have to go back to the way his weekend started. He had 2 big crashes on Friday. The crash in particular in the afternoon was a big one, which we wondered whether that might end his weekend. Fortunately, it didn't. He then qualified on the second row of the grid and had to work hard for it in the race itself. Was off the front row of the grid, had to come through on Pecco Bagnaia, and then he had to overhaul the incredible Fabio Quartararo in the race itself on the Sunday. Got through him on around lap 11 and then never really looked back from there. And we discussed it after the race and after the flag, and we might get our answer this weekend as to just what that's going to do to Alex Marquez, what kind of release that's going to have off his shoulders, when we're going to see an even better Alex Marquez from here on in than we've already seen this season, which is already the best Alex Marquez we've seen so far. Absolutely.
What we've seen from Alex Marquez in the past, you can almost throw away and completely disregards. This is a brand new version, a 2.0. He's re-energized. He's got so much enthusiasm, so much confidence in how he's riding at GP24 at the moment. So you wouldn't be surprised to see him come out and be competitive this weekend. Marc Marquez is going to come out swinging, though. That is absolutely guaranteed. What kind of a performance do you think we'll see from Marc? Because we've said in after the flag, following on from the Spanish Grand Prix, 2 different types of crashes we've seen now. The one in Austin, he held his hands up, was a lack of concentration. The win was in the bag and it was coming too easy to him. In Jerez, he spoke on Monday after the Jerez test where someone asked him, now you've had time, 24 hours to contemplate it, what do you make of the crash? And he said that I was pushing beyond my limits through that fast turn number 8 it was, where he went down one of the 2 very fast left-handers where he was gaining on everybody else. Do we now think we'll see Marc ride within himself potentially on Sunday? Because he knows that if he wants to win this World Championship, he can't be crashing out on Sunday at the frequency he has been doing this season so far.
Well, the reason the World Championship is as close as it is at this stage, you have to say, is because of Marc Marquez's 2 crashes in certainly one Grand Prix he was on course to win in Austin. We'll never know whether he could have beaten Alex Marquez on the Sunday in Jerez. I think it's going to focus the mind for Marc Marquez, no question about that. As I say, he said that the crash in Jerez wasn't down to a lack of concentration. He was just going to the corner too fast, pushing too hard in those early stages. I think what we're also going to see from Marc Marquez is he knows that he can't afford to get beaten up in those early laps and find bikes between himself and the lead of the race. He was down in, what, 4th position, 3rd, 4th position at that stage of the Spanish Grand Prix. That incredible first lap battle with his teammate Pecco Bagnaia, who laid a few punches on Marc Marquez on that first lap. We saw contact from them coming through that stadium section in Jerez for the 2nd season in a row. It was exhilarating to watch, watching the 2 Ducati teammates go head to head. But when you put Marc Marquez in traffic, he's then got to ride behind someone else. He's got the hot air coming off the bike in front, which Pecco Bagnaia says has been a root of a lot of his problems so far this season. Pecco Bagnaia said, hey, now Marc knows how I feel for the first few Grand Prix of the season. So Marc Marquez, I think, will be even more keen to take pole position, try and get to the front of the race in the sprint and also in the Sunday itself, if it's dry on Sunday, of course, and not have any bikes that he's got to worry about ahead of him, because those are where his problems came in Jerez a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we might see a slightly different weekend from Marc in the fact that he referenced it on Sunday evening, that at no point in Jerez did he actually do laps behind another rider to get an understanding of how the bike behaviour changed. And he said we might have to change that and actually look at doing some laps, whether it's he asks for a favour from teammate Pecco Bagnaia, whether he says to Alex, come on as World Championship leader, give me a helping hand, but he may do some laps 4, 5, 6 consistently behind other riders to be able to get an understanding of how the bike behaves. Pecco Bagnaia on the other side. It's a fascinating weekend because there are so many questions about so many of our top riders. Pecco Bagnaia, I think, the biggest of the lot. I think we can safely say at no point this year, it seems crazy to say, despite it being Pecco Bagnaia's best start in terms of points to a season that he's ever had, despite the fact that he's been off the podium, on only 2 occasions, despite the fact he's already won a race, I don't think he's ever looked competitive at any point this year. It never looks as though Pecco Bagnaia has been the masterful Bagnaia that has been able to romp away at the front at any point. That Jerez test, we said, was the most important day of his season so far. We're hopefully going to hear from him later on. He was speaking to the media earlier. When he came and spoke to the journalists up in the media centre, he wasn't too glowing in his reports of how that test went. What did you make of what he had to say?
Yeah, he didn't exactly jump from
that's it. Answers have been found.
Didn't exactly jump from the rooftops, did he? We're only going to find out this weekend, ultimately, aren't we, how well that test went. Crucial for Pecco Bagnaia, because as you say, he's been very consistent so far, but at no Grand Prix so far this year has he been the fastest rider, more to the point, the fastest Ducati. He's always had at least one, if not two, who have been quicker than him, those being the Marquez brothers. So Bagnaia might feel in some respects he's got away with one so far this season, to have racked up the points that he has, to only be within a race of the World Championship lead at this stage. So if he can suddenly flick that switch and get back to the Pecco Bagnaia that we saw win 11 Grand Prix last season, he's firmly in the World Championship conversation. But he's got Marc Marquez, who of course has barely taken a backward step so far this season. The only points he's given up to others have been literally given up through his own mistakes. And Alex Marquez is riding as well as he ever has. So Pecco Bagnaia knows that if he is going to win that World Championship back, that of course he lost to Jorge Martin last year, he's got to raise his game. You can't expect Marc Marquez to keep making those mistakes, because you can't imagine Marc Marquez, with the bruised ego that he's got coming here to Le Mans, that he's going to offer too many more opportunities like that.
Yeah, we speak about bruised egos. It's an interesting question I'm going to put to Davide Tardozzi throughout the weekend. At what point did Ducati say that this GP25 just isn't a marked improvement on the 2024 machine? 24 machine is leading the World Championship currently through Alex Marquez. Pecco Bagnaia has said on record on multiple occasions, I cannot do the things I want to do with this bike as I was able to do with the 24. When I say bruised ego, at what point do Ducati admit and hold their hands up, okay, we need to revert back to the 24 package? I think that is a conversation that needs to be had, and we need to see whether that eventually does happen, because if they can't find improvements over the next couple of rounds, then surely Bagnaia is going to be screaming, just give me a bike I know I can perform with.
What underlines that point is that a rider on a GP24 currently leads the World Championship in the form of Alex Marquez, so the bike is still clearly very, very competitive. And Bagnaia said it after Jerez, didn't he, that he looks at the data, he looks what Alex Marquez is doing on that GP24, and it's what he was doing last season. So he's confident that if he was on that motorcycle that Alex Marquez is on, he'd be doing something similar, if not better. But the fact of the matter is, at the moment, he isn't. And it also, I guess, brings into focus the fact that the other manufacturers, perhaps with the exception of Yamaha and Jerez, haven't really taken advantage of that so far. Ducati have not taken the quantum leap forward that they did from 23 to 24. Of course, the GP23 was a sizable step behind the 24 last year compared to the usual step we see between two Ducatis. But Aprilia and KTM haven't really punished them for that so far. And Yamaha finally in Jerez showing signs that they might.
Yeah, we'll get on to Yamaha. We're going to speak to Paolo Pavesio later on in the show. I can also hear the fans in the background shouting Johann Zarco's name. That's because he's coming to chat to us, one of the home heroes. He'll be with us very shortly indeed. Before that, though, we promised we'd hear from both of the Ducati Lenovo riders. First up, the man currently third in the World Championship, playing catch-up, Pecco Bagnaia. Here's what the Italian had to say on the eve of the French GP.
Pecco, into Le Mans after two podiums in Jerez. How have you been in the week off, and how do you view Le Mans going?
I feel good. I always like to arrive here. Yesterday, when the street arrived here, was the 24 hours layout, and I'm always enjoying arriving here. And then I love the fans here. I love the grandstand. I love the layout. So I feel ready, like always. And it will be important to work like we are doing in the last races. But this time, I would like to push a bit more. I need to fight for the results and maybe to win.
The Jerez test, we know you said it yourself, was really important. Did you learn anything that can help you throughout the season on Monday?
Yeah, we tested something that Marc was already using, and we will try to use also. But unluckily, the condition for a win wasn't the best, and was difficult to find an improvement. So in terms of setup, we are starting with the same setup, and we just will add something new, something different that I wasn't using before.
Can you tell us what that something is?
No, I can't.
Fair enough. And what are your goals this weekend or expectations? You obviously had a great fight with Jorge and Marc here last year. Do you feel like it's going to be similar again this year?
I hope that I could do it the same, but this time in opposite positions, with me winning, and then the other two, they can decide. but I think it's a good track for me. If I could improve on the areas where last year I was struggling, that were corner 3 and corner 9, I can have a chance to fight for it.
Thank you, Pecco. Have a good weekend.
Grazie.
So there we go, the thoughts of Pecco Bagnaia ahead of this big weekend for the two-time MotoGP World Champion. You feel as though he's just got to start finding any kind of rhythm to give him hope and confidence that he can really get in amongst this championship fight. You think you put it brilliantly in After the Flag, after Sunday's Spanish Grand Prix, that you can either be negative or positive, glass half full, glass half empty. He's either made the best start of his MotoGP career and he's only 20 points behind Alex Marquez despite not feeling competitive, or you look at the fact that he's just not got the feeling. At the moment, what side of the camp do you lay on?
I'd be glass half full for Pecco Bagnaia. That all depends, I guess, if you've still got faith that he's going to find that step and get back to the Pecco Bagnaia we've seen in previous years. I guess the difference from previous years is that the gap from himself to the championship leader, again, wasn't so big, but we had inconsistency at the start of last season. Also at the start of 2023, we had a lot of incidents, we had a lot of crashes. No one was really getting away at the front of the World Championship. No one was certainly showing the kind of level that Marc Marquez has shown so far, which I think you have to say would put into context Pecco Bagnaia's struggles, that he does need to make that step up. But we're going to be joined now by the first of our two home heroes this weekend. Johann Zarco joins us. Johann, thanks very much for joining us. Speaking to Fabio earlier on, this is the big one for a French rider. This is a special weekend. Just what are the emotions ahead of this French Grand Prix for you?
The energy from the crowd is just amazing, and with the experience we try to organize well our week already from Wednesday to the Sunday, to don't get too much stress of these people that want a picture, they want a signature. We try to give them for them, but now with the experience, as I say, I try to enjoy this, and it's kind of cool because it's unique.
What is it like, Johann? This is normally the best attended Grand Prix of the year. Nearly 300,000 people here a couple of years ago, and 299,000 were screaming for you and Fabio. I mean, can you try put us in your shoes? What is that emotion like, having so much support?
As I say, it's unique, and you sometimes can't believe that it's possible, because it's a moment where I can understand how passionate the people are, how passionate they are for motorbike, but they are also for the French riders, and that's so nice.
From a technical standpoint, we come here from the Jerez test. Sounds like it was a successful one, a potentially new engine this weekend. Do you feel as though you've been able to take a step at that test to make you more competitive here?
The new engine, I could not try it yet because the factory team was working on it, and we had other things to do with LCR team. But anyway, I'm feeling good on the bike, and the problem we got in Jerez and we could fix during the Monday test, I hope will help me to be very strong here, because we see that when everything goes well, I can really smell the podium, and that will be nice to do it here.
You must be as enthusiastic, as optimistic for a French Grand Prix for some time, certainly whilst being in the colours of Lucio and Honda.
Sure. I didn't understand your question there.
You must be as optimistic for a good result for quite some time.
Thank you to translate me your English.
It was my accent, sorry.
Yeah, because as I say, we started the season better than what we could expect. And Argentina fighting with Pecco was just magic. And then even in Qatar, I was still with Pecco, then fighting with Morbidelli. Wow, it really means when we feel so far and then you get this kind of result, you understand that maybe you're not so far. And that's why it's a good way to trust that things can happen even better here in France.
The sun's out here now, but 10 minutes before we came on air, it was raining here in the paddock at Le Mans. I don't know what forecast you've seen for Sunday, but there's the possibility of a wet Grand Prix on Sunday afternoon. What would your thoughts be on that, and what opportunity would that provide for you?
I'd like to be strong in every conditions, and we have confirmed that we are strong on the dry, but it's clear that with wet condition it's a bit more random. And I just hope that I will adapt as quick as possible when the conditions will change to get this chance of catch this chance of podium.
Just finally, I spoke to Lucio in Jerez, and he said that talks had begun with regards to next year. Has those talks been positive so far?
Talks are very, very positive with Honda. But as we are so clear with Lucio, and that's so nice to speak with him and be 100% honest. He knows that a chance to move up to the factory team is important for a rider, for a career also. As a fast rider in Honda, it can be interesting to become this number one rider, and I would like to make this step. So we are really speaking and trying to understand what can be the best. I know that I'm feeling super good here, that I have a full support from Honda too. But we need to evaluate if this prestigious seat in the factory team is what I need, what I want. It's something I want, but also see how things are working also for Lucio. So that's pretty nice to have this free speech between Lucio, Honda and me.
Thanks, Johann. Good luck this weekend.
Merci.
There we go, one of the home heroes, Johann Zarco. I'm sure he's going to have a very, very big weekend, and he's going to have to sign quite a few autographs and take quite a few selfies as well. No surprise, given just the amount of fans that are going to be here this weekend. We're going to head up and chat to Yamaha now and Paolo Pavesio, because just like Johann Zarco and Honda, Fabio Quartararo and Yamaha come this weekend as optimistic as they have been for quite some time.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo back on the podium in Jerez, qualified on pole position with what would certainly stand out as one of the pole position and qualifying laps of the year so far. You can see plenty of fans rushing past us because they've realised that Johann Zarco has just
nearly took you out.
There, nearly took me out on the way through. But Quartararo was incredible in Jerez, and I'm not just saying that to curry favour with all the French fans here. He was absolutely world class. We thought when Marc Marquez set that pole position lap at the beginning of Q2, well, no one's beating that. Quartararo did in the end by a couple of tenths of a second. So Quartararo's performances, I think, have given these French fans plenty of hope that a good result is possible, but it also validates the progress that Yamaha have been making so far. They showed signs of it in testing. It's very clear that the single lap performance now is no longer a weakness for Yamaha. They've certainly found that, and they demonstrated that if they can get away at the front of a race, then Fabio Quartararo has the talent to keep them up there. So, yeah, Quartararo himself did say, when I spoke to him a little bit earlier on, they were competitive in Jerez, and that is no guarantee that they're going to be competitive here as well. But if the support of the home fans is worth a couple of tenths of a second, then Quartararo shortly will feel he's got another front row possibility here this weekend.
Absolutely. I think not only has he got front row potential, he's got podium potential once again this weekend, because you look at what Fabio's strengths are. He's straight line braking, one of the strongest in MotoGP. There are so many of them here, coupled with the obvious agility that the Yamaha has got us now and the progress that they've made there. I think Fabio will feel that he can be right in the mix all weekend long. I mean, you look last year, yes, he crashed out in the end, but it was one of his better performances. He was up there comfortably inside the top 10, which was arguably his best showing of the year so far. I think that Fabio is going to be very, very confident of a big weekend. And I, for one, we're not supposed to be biased in the commentary team, but what a reception it would be if he was to get onto the podium again. It would be quite something. I mean, we've had it before, both Johann and Fabio on the podium, but after everything they've been through, the French fans know the troubles and just how hard they've been fighting. Be some reception that they would both get if either of them were able to get on the podium.
It would be incredible, because one of the moments through the season as a commentator, and I guess for you as well on the grid, one of the moments through the season that always gives us goosebumps is when they perform the national anthem, the Marseillaise, on the grid around about 10 minutes before the Grand Prix begins on the Sunday. It does get the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, and if Fabio Quartararo is on the front row of the grid ahead of that Grand Prix, the atmosphere will be reaching fever pitch. There are going to be 100,000 plus here on Sunday, and they'll all be coming here for one of two things, either a Johann Zarco result or a Fabio Quartararo result. And there's no question that if there were any tickets remaining when we went to Jerez, those will have been very quickly snapped up when Quartararo took pole position and then finished on the podium. He has given all of these fans and Yamaha fresh hope that the good times might be coming back again.
Absolutely, and one man who can vouch for that is Paolo Pavesio, new managing director down at Yamaha. I'm sure Paolo will agree. I feel as though I've spoken to Paolo over the last 2 weeks more than my own dad. I was saying, Paolo, we've had many conversations over over the last 2 weeks, but it's a good thing because you're in the headlines. You're having big success. How much have you enjoyed the aftermath of Jerez?
No, it was a special weekend, of course. We waited for it for a long time. We don't need to be too much excited because it's a journey, and the target was to be there maybe not so quickly. And now that we are there, we want to confirm. But more than the exact result, we want to confirm the competitivity. I think since Sepang test, we have seen that the project has made a step, and it has been a challenge to put all the things together. And I think when they come together, we can have a nice weekend for sure.
This could be another big weekend. The grip here is really good. Fabio is excellent under braking for those fast corners. That the Yamaha is one of the strongest out there. For me, it looks as though all of the boxes have been ticked this weekend. Have you got optimism for a good weekend?
Now we need to see it, of course, on Sunday night. But what you say is true, and we know it. This is one of the places where we feel we can be competitive. Coming here after Jerez, where we have shown the potential, of course, gives an extra motivation. And this is the thing we need to be careful. We need to remain very connected from where we come from. And as I said, it's a step-by-step journey, but we want to enjoy another great weekend for sure.
One big headline that came from the test in Jerez was the performance of the new engine. Both Fabio and Alex very complimentary of it. Both said that it gave them a couple of extra kilometres an hour, first and foremost, but also they were happy with generally how it performed across the lap. I guess first part of the question is, are you racing it here? And secondly, are you continuing to take optimism from the fact that every step you bring to the bike, it's bringing those rewards on the racetrack?
Yes, we are racing here with the engine we have been testing in Le Mans, which is another positive step potentially, and this is exactly what we are trying to do since a while, and finally the things are coming together. It's not been a revolution, but the bike we are racing this year is very different from the bike we have been racing last year. It looks similar, it is the same concept of bike, but we have been working on many improvements, and some of them, like it is with technology, are immediately confirming that we are in the good direction, some less, and the engine seems to be another positive small steps.
Just before we let you go, Paolo, we were just speaking to Johann Zarco, and he says already there's some positive talks for next year. Yamaha is one of the factories that does have a seat open going into 2026. Have talks started for you, either with Jack or with anyone else currently?
I think it's a bit early now to start talking about riders, or let's say riders for 2026. We are happy with our lineup. We are very happy, and I want to say this, to welcome back Miguel. It's been very difficult for him to start, and we are happy he's fit. It has recovered. Of course, being back on the MotoGP after having lost almost 9 weeks, I think it's not going to be easy. But let's concentrate on the guys that are racing with us this year, and we are fully focused to give them the best bike we can.
Cheeky last one. Just, I'd love to know, how would you describe your relationship with Toprak Razgatlioglu? Because it's a name that's constantly linked with so many factories. I know that there was previously the test that happened, and maybe there was a bit of a disagreement there, but right now, how would you say the relationship is?
The relation with Toprak has been a relation building 4 years working together, which has brought us a world championship, which remained one of my personal highlights as well. He is still today the most victorious superbike Yamaha rider ever, and it's a positive, very respectful relation, which is keep going.
Good to know. Thank you, Paolo. I'm fishing, but I'm just seeing what's going on. Absolutely, as always. Great to see you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. Good to chat with Paolo. Always open. I asked that one at the end because we've got reports about him maybe looking at the Honda factory seat, but Johann Zarco's looking there. I've seen reports of him Yamaha. I mean, it's a name that's continually linked, and I just thought we'd find out what the relationship is.
Raises the eyebrows, quite like Jack saying he's going in for a cheeky last question. We always know that something's cooking.
Well, we threw it out there and it was interesting. A positive relationship.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see. And when Paolo says it's too early to talk about contracts, it's never too early to talk about contracts. Conversations will have been had, absolutely, but he's woke up far too early to be buying into those games. Right, one man that we know will definitely be on the grid and will be staying in red is Marc Marquez, the man now second in the World Championship. What are his thoughts ahead of the race here in Le Mans? Let's find out.
Marc, obviously here in Le Mans you had a week to process what happened in Jerez. How was the week off been and what's your mindset coming into the French GP?
Yeah, no, it was a good week. We trained, we are in a good form. It's the most important. And yeah, it's true that in Jerez we did a mistake again on Sunday that I need to avoid. It's the year that I'm crashing less, but that crashes arrive on Sunday. Yeah, let's see if we can keep the speed. That as we show on Monday test, the speed is there, but without that mistakes.
Talk us through the Jerez test. What did you test there? Was there anything you're going to bring into the rest of the season that might help?
Not big things. More or less, we have a good base, a good balance. So yeah, we try some setups and then some things for the future. Let's see. We have some things that we need to retry here in Le Mans to understand if in a different racetrack are working well.
Had a great weekend here last year on the Ducati, a great fight with Jorge and Pecco on a year-old bike, of course, as well. So you must be pretty confident of coming into this weekend and being fast from the off.
Yeah, Le Mans is a circuit that I like it. It's true that last year we struggled a lot on Friday, and then on Saturday we found a way and I start to be competitive. But yeah, this year we will see Alex, that the leader of the championship, is riding very constant and fast. Pecco is a circuit that also he was very fast in the previous years, and KTMs and Yamaha, Quartararo, every time they are closer and closer. So let's see what they can do.
And finally, what is it like having Alex as your title rival? Is it a better thing to have your brother there, or maybe a worse thing? Would you prefer it to have someone else? What is that like? What's the dynamic?
No, for me it's super nice to compete against my brother. You know, when you have that kind of rivalities, are two options: or everybody goes on his way, or even that relation being more tight. So what's the option B? That relation is tighter than ever, and we are. I try to help him at home. He tried to help me. We are training together. But then here on the racetrack, I'm in Ducati garage defending my colors. He's in Gresini garage defending his colors. But the relationship is super good, and in the end, the best one will win the races and will fight for the championship.
Thank you, Marc. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marc speaks about him defending Ducati colours, Alex defending Gresini colours. Well, the Gresini team, quite comically, we just reminded Marc yesterday when he went for dinner at the Gresini Hospitality, he had a little placards for his position that said Marc Marquez, second in the World Championship. They love just to get that needle in there. Exactly. They like to just make sure he knows what's going on, which I love to see. Right, very quickly, Aprilia seems like a positive test for them, Lewis. I was speaking with Fabiano Sturlacchini earlier. They feel as though they have made a step during that Jerez test, so optimism for them. KTM, big weekend. We're going to hear from Maverick in the press conference. He's another man, I think, can be right there this weekend.
Certainly can be. He's got a good record around here. Won this Grand Prix back in 2017. Won as a 16-year-old in 125 some 14 years ago. So this circuit does have special memories for Maverick, and he's putting a bit of a hurry up, I guess, in the direction of the factory team at the moment. Pedro Costa, who's racing here, he's gone through arm pump surgery since we last saw him in Jerez, but he has been declared fit. He is racing this weekend. Sokiat Chantra, just to point out, if you haven't been following the news, is not. He also had arm pump surgery, but he is missing this weekend. But from a KTM point of view, they'll be looking in the direction of Maverick Vinales from what he's done in the last couple of Grand Prix, showing that that bike does have a result in it.
It does. Maverick Vinales, podium man here on a Suzuki, a Yamaha, Aprilia, maybe a KTM. Let's find out then. Time for the pre-press conference ahead of this. Round 6 of MotoGP in 2025. The French Grand Prix. World Championship leader Alex Marquez is there alongside home hero Fabio Quartararo and Red Bull KTM Tech3's Maverick Vinales.
I pots anar canviant. Jo el vaig veure i dic, mare meva, una passada que he vist. Que anem nosaltres no hi hem pensat, no ens ha deixat. No, però no et pensis, tampoc n'hi ha tant, no? Pues veu guapa la